everyone, and welcome to a Bitwave Quick Hit. Today we're talking about USDC and taxes. Pat, what is USDC?
USDC is what they call a stable coin. Now, it's super interesting to think about if you kind of get into the theoretical behind what a stable coin is. It is a token on a blockchain that is theoretically pegged to a some sort of fiat currency. So you have you have US dollar stable coins, you have euro stable coins. There's a couple other ones that have come out over the years here. So this is a token on the blockchain that essentially should sit at $1 on the blockchain. The mechanics under the hood are actually really interesting. Also, generally, what's happening is folks are sending money to these companies. So USDC is Circle. So you send money to Circle, you send them $1. They mint this $1 token. Now, what they do is they go back and they're going to actually put that to work. Now, they're going to try to do it really, really conservatively. That's using treasury bills, very, very low risk bonds, like AAA rated bonds, all that kind of stuff. Generally, it's putting it into treasury bills and then maybe into a bank account that's like let's low interest yield, all that kind of stuff. So they are earning, Circle's actually earning money on this. When you give them $1 and they give you that stable coin back, they're actually earning money on it. It's really, really interesting. This whole new way of monetizing, banks used to do this, not in my lifetime, but you used to give a bank money and they'd give you interest back. It's been a very long time since you could put $1 into a bank and get any sort of meaningful amount of interest. That then led to a point where you could have companies like Circle that where you give them $1, they give you $1 back, and then they actually keep all of the money that they earn from rehypothecating it on the other side. Super interesting.
Yeah. So right now, USDC is treated as property by the IRS, meaning that transactions could trigger capital gains, even though they're designed to be pegged one to a fiat currency like the US dollar. So, what are some misconceptions people have about stablecoin taxes, and how could you have a taxable event with a stablecoin?
Yeah, that's exactly right. So even though it is technically pegged to $1 and you can take it to Circle and you can give it back to them, it is a asset that has a floating value against a stablecoin. It's traded on every exchange. Exchanges actually, most exchanges. Now Coinbase is different because Coinbase lets you actually give them a USDC and they give you $1 back. But most exchanges, Kraken and Gemini and all these guys that are out there, they actually have open markets it's a USDC USD paired market where if I want to get USDC for my USD, I have to go to the market and put in a bid and buy the tokens. So there's been a few situations actually where there have been depegging, significant depeggings. The biggest one for USDC, Tether's had a few because Tether always has ups and downs of public relations. USDC has only had one major depegging event. It was when SVB, Silicon Valley Bank, had their run. So you might remember this a couple of years ago. SVB essentially failed a stress test, ended up becoming insolvent. It happened on a Friday or Saturday, and no one knew what was going to happen on Monday. Like literally, there were startups in the Bay Area that didn't know if they're going to be able to make payroll on Monday. USDC holds about one sixth of their overall treasury in Silicon Valley Bank. So they have T-bills, they have some in bonds, and they have some in Silicon Valley Bank. And so people basically thought like, hey, if SVB goes under, these Circle funds are not going to be covered by FDIC. Now, it was unclear if they would be or wouldn't be, but that was everyone's thinking. And so it is quite possible that USDC will unpeg to the tune of one sixth of their total treasury. And so what happened over that weekend, and because again you have crypto trades 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, all around the world. Over that weekend, USDC actually dropped from 1 cent, from $1 down to about 93 cents. So in that case, if you had bought it, and a lot of people did, there was a lot of people who went out and bought at 93 cents. That's 7 cents that you just made by just sort of showing up and taking the risk on it. So you do treat it like property. There's even times you have to do impairment on it, which is an accounting term where you mark things down. So folks that had USDC actually were supposed to mark it down to 93 cents if they were holding it during that depegging cycle. So yeah, it is by all accounts. This was a rule that FASB pushed out not too long ago that really it talked about a lot of digital assets, but it declined to take an opinion on stablecoins, saying you could treat them as a US dollar. So stablecoins remain treated as just like any other digital asset, which is essentially a security or some sort of physical asset that you take into where you have to track capital gains and do impairments and all that kind of stuff.
Okay. But people still are spending USDC, they're paying for services, they're buying things in
All the
USDC,
time.
they're
Yeah, people love
staking.
USDC. It's great. It's come back to a dollar. You use it to you can earn interest by staking it in places. You can put it in Coinbase and earn interest. That just comes in as revenue. You can go and you can pay bills with it. At Bitwave, we pay a lot of our bills with USDC, and we get paid a lot with USDC too. So we actually have a lot of bills coming in on a monthly basis in USDC.
What about just transferring between two wallets that your company or business or you own?
Yeah, same rules of everything. If you transfer between two wallets that you own, you need to track it as inventory. So you need to lift the inventory out of one wallet and put the inventory into the other wallet, but you're not going to pay capital gains on it. You don't have to track the gain loss between those two moments. You can move it at cost basis.
What about looking to the future? Do you think that regulations will change to make it easier, to make the tax calculations easier?
Maybe, but there's been a lot of discussion about doing a stablecoin bill. The problem is, so here's where everything gets hung up: is that the stablecoin bills that have been proposed have either allowed or been squishy on yield, and so that gets the banks in the U.S. really upset. So what in a perfect world what would happen is that that 4% that Circle is earning by putting the USDC Treasury into T bills, they would actually share that back with consumers, and it is such a great experience. If you think about this idea that like I could earn yield by owning some USDC for 3 minutes. I could earn 3 minutes of yield. That is such a magical thing. Like you can't do that with banks. Like banks have a minimum amount of time that funds have to stay in your account, a minimum of time that they're going to count it towards interest. There's this world that we're looking at where you could earn these like really small real time yields. We haven't gotten there yet, but at some point there'll be legislation that gets stable coins to be treated like a dollar and will allow yield. That's a really exciting place.